Hey guys, welcome back. This is Miss Dee. I'm going to go over the area of trapezoids with you today. So the area of the trapezoids is going to be 1/2 times base 1 and base 2 added together times the height. So base 1 and base 2 and then the height, how tall. So top and bottom and then how tall. I'm going to go ahead and go over problem number 4 on page 442 on your books. So the problem initially only gives you the trapezoid, and it tells you that this is 5 here, and this is 5 as well. The two legs are 5, which make this an isosceles trapezoid. It gives you the base 1, which is 2, and it gives you the height, which is 4. It does not give you the base 2. So that we needed to figure out. Now I knew that I could create a triangle here. Since this is an altitude, that means that this is a 90-degree here, which creates a 90 right triangle, okay? So with the right triangle, I was able to use the Pythagorean theorem, okay, to figure out the bottom part here. Now I know I have one of the legs, and I know that I have the hypotenuse here. I did not have this part down here. So that's what I needed to figure out. So I used the Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. Although, if you remember from class, I did tell you that there was this special triangle that had 3, 4, 5 as its length, okay? So I went ahead and I filled everything out, noting that 5 should be C since it is the hypotenuse. So I figured out that 16 plus b squared equals 25. Now I needed to move the 16 over, which gives me b squared equals 9. I want to get rid of that 2 there, the square. So we know to do that, we have to square root. So I square rooted the b squared and I square rooted the 9, which gave me b equals 3. So I was able to figure out that this was 3. This is an isosceles trapezoid, which means that if this is 3 here, this is 3 as well here. Now I know that the top base is 2, which means that if I go straight down, this should also be 2. Now I know this is 3, 2, and 3. I went ahead and I added them together and I got a total of 8. That will give you your base 2. From there, I know that I have base 2, the height, and the other base 1. So I was ready to use my formula for area and figure out what the area was. So I went on, I have my formula for the area. I filled out everything that I know. I know this is a 2, base 1 is 2, base 2 is 8, and the tallness or height is 4. So 2 plus 8, 10. Put that in on the calculator and it should give you 20 feet squared. I put inches on this one, but it should be feet, okay? Moving on to another example. This is a little more complicated example because it gives you a degree measure, okay? So on this one, I knew that this was 9, that was 45, and this is a 4. So from there, I'm able to say, hey, this is gonna be a spatial triangle because if I draw down a straight line from here to here, it's gonna give me a 90-degree angle, okay? Which creates a 90, 45, 45 triangle, okay? So creating that, I should know that, well, this is 4 from here to here, and all of it together is 9, meaning that 9 minus 4 will give you 5. Okay, so that's how I knew this was 5 here. Now this is a 45, 45, 90. Since it's an isosceles triangle, that means that if this is 5, this is 5 as well. Okay, now if you're not that good with special triangles, that's okay. We can go ahead and use special triangles, or we can use SOHCAHTOA or the law of sines. So the law of sines, we went ahead and used a little bit better than SOHCAHTOA. So that's what I'm gonna be using with you guys. Since I saw that in class, you guys preferred that over anything else, okay? So sine A over A equals sine of angle B over side B. So on these ones, I went ahead and I used the 45 here and this 45, and I knew that this was 5. At this moment, I did not know that this was 5, okay? Again, if you feel comfortable with the 45, 45, 90 triangle, use that. It's way shorter and way easier than you having to do the law of sines. So what I went ahead and I did is I said sine of 45, this is sine of 45 over 5, which is what's across from it, equals sine of 45 over x. At this moment, I did not know that that was 5, okay? So then I cross multiply 5 times sine of 45 equals sine of 45 times x. Now I can go ahead and isolate my x. I wanted to leave it by its own. So I went ahead and divided by sine of 45 here, which canceled, and sine of 45 here, which also canceled, which gave me 5 equals x. So that's how I knew that that was 5. So now knowing my height and knowing base 1 and base 2, I'm ready to use my formula. So I plug everything in to the formula. Base 1 is 4, base 2 is 9, and then height is 5. So then 4 plus 9, PEMDAS, we have to do what's in the parentheses first. Do not forget that. That gave us 13, and then times 5, and then times 1/2 gave us 32.5 feet squared. Problem is a little bit more difficult. So it is giving us a trapezoid with only 3 pieces of information. Again, it's only giving us the bottom base, and it's also giving us this part here, one of the legs, which is 14. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you create that triangle, because it always goes back to triangles, especially right triangles. So I do notice that I do have a 60 here, and if this is going to be 90, then this has to be a 30, which is going to give us a special triangle, 30, 60, 90. So 30, 60, 90, I'm gonna go ahead and label those for you guys. And just for it to look a little bit nicer, I went ahead and I just put the 60 outside. So the first thing we wanna do is find the missing length. So in this case, I need to figure out the height, and then I need to figure out this part, because if I can figure out this part, then I know this part here, this little piece here, which then leads me to figure out the top base, or this base here that we see in the bottom right now. So again, I want to use my 30, 60, 90 triangle. So this is a special case. I do know that across the 90, I have a 14, and my rule says that across 90 is twice x. And then I know that across 30, I have just x. So if this is twice as much, then that means that this should be 7. So then the last one across from 60 should be x times square root of 3, which in this case is 7 square roots of 3. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to work it out using law of sines. So using law of sines is gonna be like this. So we want to go ahead and say sine of 30 over x, because we don't know the length of the leg that is across from 30, equals sine of 90 over the length that is across, which is 14. We cross multiply sine of 30 times 14 equals x times sine of 90. And because we want to leave the x by itself, we're going to go ahead and divide by sine of 90 on both sides. So dividing by sine of 90 is the same as dividing by 1. Sine of 90 equals 1 actually. So, and sine of 30 is 1/2. So you guys are going to learn that later on pre-calculus. But if you do that, again, this is 0.5 or 1/2. So 14 divided by 2 gives you 7. 7 over 1 is 7, right? So that's how we get that answer there. But of course, that only gives us this part here. We still have to figure out this one. So we already have this triangle here, and we already have two knowns. So we can use 7 squared plus b squared equals 14 squared. But because I want to practice the law of sines with you guys, I'm going to go ahead and use that again. So I'm going to draw that line there to kind of separate it for you guys. And so it's gonna go, my ratio is gonna go like this. Sine of 90 over 14, again, we want whatever is across from it, equals sine of 60 over x, because we don't know what the length here is. So we do that, and we wanna cross multiply. So I want sine of 90 times x, and I want 14 times sine of 60. I want to leave the x by itself, so I divide by sine of 90 again. And again, sine of 90 is just 1. Dividing by that, it cancels. And when you put this on the calculator, it gives you 12.1243 roughly, okay? So now we have all of our information. So with that in mind, we are ready to continue. And so right now what we did is we figured out that 12.1243 is the height. And so now it's time for us to find the area. So we're ready to apply our formula. Our formula is there. What I'm gonna go ahead is I'm gonna go ahead and fill in everything that I know. So I'm gonna substitute base 1, base 2, and height. My base 1, I know that that is 26. My base 2, I know that that is going to be 12. And so as you see here, before I put the 12 there, first I figured out that that was 7, right? Since this is a isosceles trapezoid, and isosceles trapezoid, if this is 7, this is 7 here as well, okay? So that is going to be 7, because if we draw another triangle there, that's going to be a 7, because these two are going to be congruent. So then I know that I have a 26 there in the middle for the whole bottom base or top base, okay? And this is 7, that is 7. So what I can do is I can subtract 26, 7, and the other 7, and that gives us the 12. So that is how I knew that the base was going to be 12. And then of course we figured out that that was going to be, the height was going to be 12.1243. And so I like using 4 decimals, because then it keeps my answer closest to what it's supposed to be. And so once we put that in the calculator, it should give you, the area is 230.4 inches squared.